it's equipping to help them have the best fighting chance at having successful lives, having enjoyable lives, because life is tough. It's hard. And I know. All right, welcome back to the Dadless Dad. I'm Matt. Obviously, I grew up without my dad in the picture. And in this episode, we're going to talk about why you need to date her like she's not yours. 4 reasons you'll be glad you did. The first lesson on the list is cutie or duty. This actually came about as my wife and I were taking a marriage class. See, we have been married and we've had kids for most of our marriage. In fact, we have 5 kids. And it gets busy. Life is hectic. There's a lot of things going on. And I knew that it's important to spend quality time. The mistake I made, see, my wife has always had a dream of being a mom. So I thought the best thing I could do was make sure I was making memories as a family. But as my wife and I took a marriage course, one of the things that we were encouraged to do was to write out or talk about the memories for the last few years that were just us, just the 2 of us, that stood out as fond. And as I searched my memory bank, I realized I had been so busy making memories with the family, I forgot to make them with her. And so I immediately changed. We scheduled a date, we went out, and when we went on this date, I took her to a very fancy restaurant. And as I looked across the table and noticed the way the light attaches to a girl, things counting crows, I was captivated by her beauty. It reminded me of the way I used to look at her. It reminded me of how grateful I was in those early days when we started dating. And it made me realize I wanted more of that. I was falling in love with her all over again. I was seeing her as the cutie I fell in love with. And I was removing her from the list of things I had duty to hold up and maintain responsibilities for. And I gotta say, I much prefer seeing her as a cutie that's worth fighting for than a person I have duty to support. As amazing as seeing my wife as a cutie and no longer a duty was, having it once is okay, but how do you continue that? And this next topic is prince or toad. See, I don't know if you understand, but my wife and I have been married for 22 years. And over that time, there's been times where my wife sees me as a prince and other times she sees me as a toad. And I'll just tell you right now, princes get way more kisses. It's a way better time being seen as a prince than it is as being seen as a toad. And so as I was reliving and also enjoying the newfound excitement in our relationship, I began to realize I wanted to recreate that situation, although probably not as extravagant, because we went to a very nice restaurant and it was more than just a restaurant. We had a whole evening planned. But having had this experience, I realized there's got to be a way to recreate it, because as grand and amazing as the service was, as spectacular as the food was, what truly made it special and enjoyable was us. I began to realize that for about the same cost of what it takes to take my family of 5 just to a fast food restaurant, I could take my wife out and we could have an amazing time. It's not about budget as much as it is about the allocation of resources. See, when you make a concerted decision to bless a specific person, what only does a little for many people does a lot for one person, or for 2 in this situation. And so I started making space and time to go ahead and take my wife out. And by the way, pro tip, if you have kids, one of the things that I have done is whenever I take my wife out, I always save a little bit aside to make sure that when I'm coming home, I'm bringing a blessing for the kids. Why? I want my kids to associate me taking their mother out as a blessing. It's building something in their mentality where they're excited for us to go because they know something is on the way back. All right, now that you understand the importance of seeing her as a cutie and making you look like a prince, where you often find yourself is this next space, and that is first love again. You know, when we were out at that restaurant, I found myself remembering and thinking back to how often I would just enjoy being in her presence, just spending time talking. You know, one of the things with kids is there's a lot of little prods. There's a lot of little, hey, can I? Hey, will you? I want. When can? And all these things that are constantly coming at you. I mean, sometimes just to get through a basic conversation, my sanity has been disturbed 15 times. So when you get that space away and you begin to start having conversations, the conversations you used to have before, back when you were still trying to prove to her you were headed somewhere, and back when she still thought there was dreams to experience. You know, I think sometimes we think that the older we get, the less there is to experience. And sometimes I think we just forget how to have experiences. As we were on that date, I remembered what it was like to have young love, and I began to hunger for it. And so now I work at it. I work at it regularly, not just when we're out on a date. I work at it when we're at home. I work at it with my words. I work at it in my thinking, because what I'm trying to do is, the more gratitude I have in my heart, the less of a show I have to put on trying to act like I'm something I'm not. Authenticity goes a long way, but it is cultivated, right? There's competing thoughts. We'll talk about that in another episode. But the bottom line is, once you find yourself in what I call first love, keep doing the things you did originally, and you'll be surprised on how it's not simply because it was early on. It had more to do with who you allowed them to pull out of you than who they were or who you thought they were. We often, I think, get confused. We think it's about who we thought we saw. And it is in a way, but I think more often than not, when we think we're seeing them, somehow, I think more often than not, we see a reflection of ourselves. It's like we feel the emotion they draw out of us. And it's like, I associate the emotion that's coming out of me with you. But then later in life, we associate those emotions with them too. And sometimes those emotions are contextual. You put yourself in a trauma situation, you might be experiencing trauma. It doesn't mean the person's a trauma person. It just means you're experiencing some trauma, right? And you put yourself in a comfortable situation, one where you can dream and you can find yourself having hope the way you did in the beginning. So now you've made her a cutie, you become a prince, and you're in first love again. This is so vitally important, and here's the reason why, and this is why this relates to being a dad. What's what I call little voyeurs. Kids watch. They're watching everything. And just because I'm doing everything I can to portray what it looks like to have a successful relationship, it doesn't guarantee that they will, but it does give them a fighting chance, because they see the links, the efforts, the depths that dad goes to make sure I'm being intentional, to make sure I'm making impact. And these little things are speaking to my children. It doesn't hurt that I'm also doing what I said before and making sure that I'm bringing a blessing back for them. They're also associating it with good behavior. Dates mean good things. That's going to pay dividends for years for them to come. And if you're like me, then the most important things in your life, for me, it's God and family. And my relationship with my kids and the legacy and the things that I'm associating and arming them with, that's where this becomes so much more vital and so much more valuable than just an experience I'm getting to have. It's equipping to help them have the best fighting chance at having successful lives, having enjoyable lives, because life is tough. It's hard. And I know my wife and I have something special, but it's not by chance. And I think sometimes people think they're just lucky. Oh, if you only knew how hard we fought, how hard I've fought to go ahead and build the framework to allow me to be able to see my world this way. You'd understand it's not by chance, it's by choice. And so I'll end with this, knowing it's better to see somebody as a cutie than a duty, to be a prince than a toad, to experience first love again. And you got little voyeurs watching. What are you going to do today to go ahead and rekindle the love that you had in the beginning? What have you been doing that's working? Put it in the comment section below. Thank you for hanging out this long if you made it this far. And if you enjoyed this video, then check out some of my others. I appreciate you. God bless and have a great day. Bye. I don't like this. I need your help.
I learned from my kids and why I should have listened earlier. All right.
Walmart. We get to go to Walmart.
Emotion. I looked over at her and I went, ooh. She got it from me. And if you don't want to see it on them, you probably shouldn't let it be wrong, like a flaw. Like I've had a tear on my shirt or a smudge or the dreaded booger in the nose. She came running in our room and jumped on our bed. She was wearing a cheetah print shirt. She's crawling around the bed and she goes, Dad, and I'm half out of it. Dad, I'm a cheetah. And I watch as she touches her arm. She goes, doesn't feel like a cheetah, but I am.